And welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. I am your host, John Methencamp. On tonight's show, we have Tammy Treichel from the She-Squatchers. She sits down for a one-on-one interview, and we talk a little bit about everything. You know, she's had more experiences than just Bigfoot. So I hope you enjoy it, and be looking out for the rest of the She-Squatchers. They'll be on the show over the next few weeks, which is right now at least 8 weeks, maybe 9, of Bigfoot related content. So I hope you all enjoy that. I really appreciate all the support I've been getting on the different channels. And if you really want to support the show, the best way to do that is by sharing, liking, subscribing, leave a comment. You know, let me know how I'm doing. I like to reply to each comment that I get, at least the good ones. But yeah, that is the best way that you can support the show. You know, help with the algorithm, get me out in front of more people, and it'll encourage me to keep going. If you'd like to help with the financial part of it, there's a couple ways that you can do that, because making the podcast is not free, even though consuming it is. So if you're interested in making a small donation, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can subscribe to my channel on TikTok for $2.99 a month, and you'll get previews of all the episodes before everybody else. You get some fun little emoji stickers that you can use during the chat, and you'll get a shout out before the next episode and anytime that you join the chat during the lives. The other way that you can support the show is by buying me a coffee. Go over to buymeacoffee.com, look up Myths, Monsters, and Mullets, make a small donation there, and you'll get the same perks that you get if you subscribe on TikTok. Speaking of the lives, starting this weekend, we're going to a non-regular schedule for the summer. We do a lot of camping, so Sunday nights will be pretty busy. What I'll be doing is I'll be either doing it on Friday nights or Saturday nights. We'll do it around the fire. I'll be doing it on my phone, so it'll be a little bit different format, but you can come in and tell your paranormal encounters live on TikTok. I'll be posting on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube my schedules whenever they come out, and that'll be last minute depending on the weather and, you know, some other factors. If you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com, leave me a message on Facebook, or just leave a comment down below. I'll get a hold of you and we'll figure out how we can get you on the show. Before we start tonight's show, I decided to change up the intro a little bit. Got a new song that I'd like to try out. So this is only part of the song. I felt like it was too long for an entire intro, but let me know in the comments how you like it. Also, at the end of this episode, totally different song, the new outro music. You know, give it a listen. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below, and let me know whether I need to change it again or go back to how I was doing it before. With that, let's start the show.
Out in the woods, shadows creep slow. Footprints deep where no man should go. Cold winds howl through hollers and brooks. Whispers of Bigfoot in the way it looks. Myths, monsters, and mullets in the night. Under a pale moon, strange glowing light. Truth out there like a blade it cuts. Myths, monsters, and mullets run 'em up.
Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. I am your host, John Methencamp. On tonight's show, we have Tammy Treichel. You may know her from the She-Squatchers, but she is so much more than the She-Squatchers. And that's why I wanted to have her come back in. And she came in the live with the rest of the crew. And that'll be on an episode that's coming up. Podcast Time Travel. It's going to be out before you see this one. But we did do a group interview, but I wanted to try to get each of the members back in to talk more personally about their own experience. So Tammy, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, obviously, I am a member of the She-Squatchers. I've been doing that since 2018. Other than that, I am a mom. I'm a widow. I am a certified scuba diver. I will be getting my black belt in Muay Thai kickboxing next weekend. So by the time you see this, I'll have it. I love adventure. I like to travel. And my favorite adventures are the ones I haven't been on.
Nice. I know when I talked to Jason Kinsey, he brought up the fact that you were into martial arts. So
yes,
because I don't know if you watched that interview that I did with him, but one of the questions I asked is if you and the rest of the She-Squatchers got into a battle royale with each other, who would win? And he picked you.
Well, yeah, I'm trained.
Yeah, so that's how I come to find out about the She-Squatchers was, of course, through searching for Sasquatch. And what's it like working with Jason Kinsey?
I love Jason. He's so fun. We have the best time. We are all laughing the entire time that we're together. We are serious when we need to be when we're filming, but the rest of the time, our bellies hurt from laughing so much. He's amazing. He's fun. He's genuine and authentic. He's a great person. Everybody who gets to work with him comes away, knowing him and knowing that, he's just great. He's a great, fun person to be with. And I love filming with him and traveling with him and having adventures with him. He's fun for us.
Yeah, it was a very fun interview that I did with him. So yeah, I'd be remiss.
You can't help but laugh.
Oh, right. In fact, when I did the interview, I thought we were going to do audio only. So I didn't even take a bunch of time focusing my camera and everything else. I was very early in my podcasting. So, but then he's very animated and he had a lot of things to show us. So
definitely
it ended up being a video podcast, but my video looked like crap. Unlike today, it's going to look beautiful.
Yes. Digging the mullet hat.
It's real, Tammy. It's real.
I can tell it is.
Giving away my secrets because nobody knows it's a fake mullet.
Nobody knows.
No. Daggone it. Now I'm going to have to change my whole style. But anyway.
That's right.
So how did you get...
Just change your name to Myth, Monsters, and Mullet Hats.
There you go.
Problem solved.
And that's what I brought you in for. Problem solver, So what got you into searching for Bigfoot and all this stuff? Did you have paranormal encounters before?
Oh, yeah, I've had paranormal encounters my entire life. That's not what got me into Bigfoot. Being around Jen got me into Bigfoot. But my paranormal encounters started the first one I remember I was 4. Do you want me to tell you about it?
Absolutely. That's what we're all here for.
Okay. This one is very interesting because since things have come out in movies and films and things, it makes a different approach to it. But when I was 4 years old, I was at my grandmother's house, and my mom and my grandmother were inside the house, and I was sitting outside on the front steps. And I was just sitting outside looking around, and felt like somebody was watching me. And so I look across the street up in this tree, and I don't really see anything, but I just feel something watching me. And then it moved. And as it moved, it was clear, but I could see it when it was moving. Now, mind you, this is way before Predator movies ever were even thought of. Way back when. Giving away my age. But
no, wait a minute. You don't look a day over 21.
You're sweet. Thank you. That's why you get the girls, right?
That and the mullet.
Yes, the mullet does it too. Anyway. So I'm sitting there and I see this thing moving. And it's clear, and I just got this chord struck in me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing doesn't like me. And all of a sudden, it jumped out of the tree and starts running across the street at me. Keep in mind, it's clear. You can only see that it's something moving. And so I'm 4 years old and I jump up and I'm trying to open the door to get into my grandmother's house, and it's a glass door, and sometimes that button sticks. And I'm pulling, I can't get it. I turn around and he's almost to the bottom of the steps. And so finally I yank the door open and I run in the house, and it slams up against this glass door and slams it shut. And my mom's like, "Don't slam the door." I mean, what am I going to say? It wasn't me. It was that clear monster. And I had no idea what it was. I really think that because my grandmother was so religious that's what kept it from entering the house. Maybe, but it didn't get in the house. But yeah, I didn't know what it is. Looking back now, that's why I was like, it could be a possible Wendigo, because they can cloak into clear. It could be a djinn. They also can do that. And it could be Bigfoot, because they've also been known to do that. So what was it? I don't know, but it didn't like me, or it wanted to take me or something. But yeah, that was scary.
So I know you were 4 years old, and I'm sure everything looks huge. But looking back, how big do you think this thing was?
Probably about 6 or 7 feet anyway. It wasn't little. It wasn't tiny. I could see it standing up in the tree very large. And when it was at the bottom of the stairs, its head was almost level with the top of the stairs. And there was like 4 stairs there. So.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty tall.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long did it take for you to be able to tell that to anybody?
Well, I never told my mom because she wouldn't have believed me anyway. First time I told that to anybody, I was probably like 30 at least, because it was just one of those things that I put it into my pocket and went on with life. It happened. It certainly wasn't the last thing that happened to me, so I just chalked it up to one more thing.
Right. And I know when I was growing up, if I would have had something like that happen, you wouldn't bring that stuff up because you're going to be made fun of.
Yeah,
you're
who's
seeing
going to believe
things.
you? Your friends will laugh at you, and your parents will tell you're making things up.
Right. So I guess that is one good thing about the internet. I think the free flow of
Right.
information makes people like us who have had experiences that back 30 years ago would have been considered crazy. Makes it a little more acceptable, makes you be able to find people that have had similar encounters. And so, yeah, I guess there is some good parts to the internet. Not many, but that's one.
Well, and with that come the trolls, but you get a thick skin as you grow older.
Well, like I tell everybody that asks me about how do you handle trolls, I encourage them to troll me, because every comment on my YouTube is part of the algorithm, and it doesn't matter what they put on there. It's still interactions.
Right?
So troll me all you want. I don't care.
That's right.
I'm probably going to reply to you and see if you'll reply back, just so I can get one more comment on there.
Any press is good press.
That's correct. That is correct. So this happens when you're 4 years old. What happens next?
Well, I mean, I lived in Virginia Beach as a child. I lived on Fort Story back when people lived on Fort Story. Now it's just a training base. I mean, I guess there still is some housing, but I lived in a colonial home that was a couple blocks from the beach on one of the places that they had landed when people were coming to America. So when they first landed in Virginia Beach, that there's only a couple blocks from my house. So this house that I lived in was used during war for like a military kind of housing area for soldiers that were, coming and going off the ships and things. So there was a lot of activity in that home. And every night when I would go to sleep, you would hear military boots walking up the stairs. And they were wood stairs, so it was very loud. And there was a landing right outside my bedroom, and it would stop right at the landing. Every night it would come that far. It didn't ever enter my room at night. Like it never opened my door or anything. So that would happen often. And then also if I stayed in bed too late, they would come and shake my bed until I woke up and got up because they thought I was sleeping too late.
So maybe this was like a drill sergeant.
So that happened. I mean, like I'm a psychic medium. So yeah, I'm a psychic medium. So I have a light that beings and entities are attracted to because I have a brighter light than some people. So I've been attracting entities and things my entire life. So that happened in Virginia. Every house I've ever lived in was haunted. If it wasn't when I moved in, it was by the time I left. I would walk into my friends' houses, go to walk up the stairs, and every door would slam as I was coming up the stairs. I'm like, okay, I know that you're here. It's okay. I'm not going to bother you.
And that wasn't even in your house. That was in a friend's house.
No, it was in my friends' houses. Yeah.
So like you're like a magnet for this stuff. It's like wherever you go.
Absolutely. And psychics are, anybody who has a bright light, if you are psychic, if you're an empath, if you do a lot of work with healing, you attract darker things because they want that energy. Right. They want that light.
Right. Wow. Now I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want to meet you in real life because
they're not attached to me. I'm a stronger medium than that. They don't get to stay around me. The only ones that are allowed to stay around me are my guardians and my ancestors.
Okay. That makes me feel better. So
yes. I don't have a troll of a line of dark entities following me around.
that is a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, how do other people, like when you're growing up, react when stuff like this is happening around you?
Kids are so resilient. When something weird happens, you're just like, "Oh, that was spooky," But then you go on with life. You don't focus on that stuff when you're younger. As an adult, the camps of thought, oh, that's fake. Oh, you're fake. Whatever. You're just making stuff up. There's that camp. And then there's the, oh, can you give me a reading for free? There's that camp too. But I've actually had people fly me out to their properties to banish dark entities and to close portals. On several occasions, I've done that. I have worked with and moved on many dark entities and other things that were never human.
Really? Like a real life Ghostbuster?
Yeah. I had one in my house. Oh, I have stories. What do you want to know?
I want to hear them all. I mean, I don't know how much time you have, but I'm free for the rest of the day. I'm off work.
Okay, let's go.
All right.
Let's see. I'll do in Minnesota, my house, we had an 80-acre farm, and our yard was 10 acres. The rest was farmland. But it was, obviously a very old building that I lived in. It was built in the 1880s, and it was a 5-bedroom. And then we had a shop, and then we had a machine shed, outbuildings, wood stove, stuff like that on our property. And we had a flowing well, which means the water comes from underground to give us water for our house. So we had that. But when I first moved in there, I was told that there were some ghosts in there, and one was a little boy named Vincent, and that there was some people on the property and ancestors on the property. And so I wasn't, I was used to there being ghosts around. It didn't bother me. But when I had my youngest daughter, there was an entity, a black smoke entity that started being in my house, and it would come down the stairs and shoot through my kitchen into my bathroom. And then there was a crawl space up above the washer and dryer. It would go up in there. So that was when I'm like, okay, well, something's going on here. And I had one of my other psychic friends come over, and we found that there was a portal in my bathroom above that washer and dryer. Think Carolyn, that kind of portal up in the ceiling.
So you're tying a rope to yourself every time you use the restroom?
Right, I'm like, tennis ball, throwing tennis balls. No, it wasn't that open, but that would have been cool. I would have done it. Just saying. But so yeah, we saw that things were going up in there and coming out of there. And a couple weeks later, I was in my bedroom and I had my daughter on the bed and I was changing her diaper and I felt something come behind me and I looked and through the crack in the door, there was a demon and I can describe it exactly. He had a black trench coat on. He had like bluish skin and you could see like purple veins up under his skin. His eyes were yellow and they were like rimmed with red. He had really jagged teeth. And he looked me right in my face. And I looked him right in his face. It was not like third eye. It was just, I saw this with my physical eye. And he walked by the crack in the door and he's just looking at me as he goes by. And I'm looking at him and as he goes by and he walks out onto my front porch. And my son had moved his bedroom out there onto the front porch because at one time we had a lot of kids in my house. That's another story. And he just wanted his own space. So he moved his bedroom out there. But yeah, that was a spooky looking dude. And I was like, okay, you have got to go. You cannot stay in my house. I have children here. So I called in my psychic friend and we were going through the house and saging and cleansing and throwing, salt at the portal, closing the portal. We get down to the basement and there's a parasite down there. I don't know if you're familiar with what a parasite is, but think of, what's that movie where they crawl on the side of the wall? Insidious, like that.
Yes.
It was crawling on my wall. I was like, okay, this thing.
And you saw this?
I saw it. And so
Why didn't you burn this house down?
Well, I couldn't. I didn't have any place to go. So we got rid of it instead. But yeah, we did a circle and lit candles and moved all the entities on that were not, paranormal, well, not dark, put it that way. But and crossed them over to the light. And there was like an old couple and there was a couple kids and things like that hanging out in the house. And we did move them on. And then this thing did not want to go, and he thought, that it was funny, that we were sitting there letting all these things go. He thought it was funny, but we did get him out, and we did banish him from my house and from my property. But he didn't think that we could, and he was laughing right up to the end when he wasn't. That was the beginning of my career as somebody who goes to people's house and closes portals and banishes entities. That was the beginning of that.
So you call this psychic friend in, and you banish these spirits, and you thought, that was fun. Let me do that some more.
Oh, somebody heard that I had done that. And they're like, hey, can you come to my house? And so I started doing it locally, and then they're like, oh, well, I have a cousin out in blah, blah, blah. Can you go there? I'm like, well, if they pay my way, you pay for me to get there, you pay for my stuff while I'm there, I'll come do it. And, after that, then, it got bigger and bigger, and people were paying me to not only go out there, they would pay my stuff, and then they would pay me in addition to. So, yeah, I've been doing that for a long time. I haven't had to do it in like a year or so, though.
Wow. I can't say that I've ever had somebody on my show that chose that career.
It's just one of the many things that I do. I do a plethora.
Yeah, I get that impression off your Facebook that you are involved in a lot of things.
I am, and I had to tell myself that I don't get to take on anything else until I start finishing some things. But I'm only away from my kickboxing black belt, so there you go. I'll be done with that, and then I can put that minimized as not, instead of going 3 times a week, I'll probably go 1 or 2, and then I'll think about maybe taking on something else after I have a little rest.
Be traveling the world,
yes.
Battling demons.
I do love traveling the world. I did have an experience in Italy with a demon, actually. Next story. Okay. I was 21. And I was over in Italy on a modeling contract, and I was living in Milan, and where I was living was like on the very edge of town, farther away from the center. And I lived in what used to be a doctor's office. That was the only place that was an apartment. The rest was like warehouse. I never even saw what was on the other side of it, but I just know it was warehouse. Like I never went into that at all. And there was no access to it from my apartment, but it was a doctor's office. And on the other side was a chocolate factory, which was cool, but it had big iron gates to go in, and then you walk into it, and there's like a little altar area, because over in Italy they have altars like in their houses. It's set in. So and then you walk in, and there's a room, and then the kitchen, and then go through the other one. There's a bedroom and a bathroom. That was the whole place. But I lived there for 4 months, and the first month that I was there, nothing really happened, and then after a while I was sleeping in that bedroom, and one night I had an alarm clock radio, those old ones that are like shaped like this. And it went off in the middle of the night, and I'm like, okay, maybe I set the alarm or something, so I just shut it off. And the next night it happened again, and I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. I know there was no alarm on it this time because I turned it off. So I just unplugged it. And then the next night, not only did it turn on while it was not plugged in, I woke up, it was under my pillow, and it was on, not plugged in. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, what the crap? And so I'm like, okay, I'm not sleeping in this bedroom anymore. And I pulled the bed out into the front room area, and I just closed that door. I would only go in there to go to the bathroom.
That's like the worst tooth fairy ever.
Right. It gets better. So I don't know. A couple nights later, I woke up, and that clock had been in the bedroom. I left it in there, and it was underneath my pillow in the other room where I had left it, and standing at the foot of my bed was a little girl. And I was like, okay, hi. And I took that out. I'm like, no, we don't. I looked at her. I'm like, we don't play with this. And I put it down. And she's standing there, and she's like, I'm cold. And I was like, okay, for whatever reason, I was barely awake. I opened my covers and let this little girl get in the bed with me. Okay. I wasn't thinking. I was just sleeping. So she gets in the bed with me, and she's sitting there, and I looked over her. I'm like, is that better? And she said yes. And then she goes, why do you speak English? And this snake tongue comes out of her mouth and into my ear. And it was long. It was like, and I was like, oh no, you did not. And I pushed her out of the bed, and then she was just gone. She was gone. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know of any entity that is not a demon that has a snake tongue. I mean, now we have like reptilians, but there was no talk of reptilians back then. So I was like, okay, that's it. And I slept with the lights on the rest of the time I was there, 3 more months. I would not sleep with them off, except for one night when my friend came, and she's like, well, I want to see this little girl. Let's turn the lights off and sleep with the lights off. And I'm like, I'm hiding behind you, but go ahead. And she never appeared. They tried. They're like, oh, well, little girl, are you here? Come out. But she never came out. But that is like the scariest thing that ever happened to me, because it was in my bed,
Well, I mean, you did invite it there.
I did let it. I let her in my bed.
And did you wash your sheets with holy water after that?
Well, there's no washers and dryers in apartments in Italy, so I had to wash it in the shower. But yes, I did wash the sheets. There was nothing weird on them, though. I was like, I looked. I'm like, is there some kind of ectoplasm, some slime, something? No, there was not.
Well, I think I would have made a mess myself in the sheets. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that was fun. Good times.
I don't know. We kind of glitched there for a second. I'm hoping, yeah. So I'll cut that little part out. Maybe not.
Maybe we'll just leave it because it'll be funny faces.
Right.
That's what you think. I'm here for it.
And I'm okay with that. Right. So you invited the child demon into your bed,
Mm-hmm.
and so then how long were you in Italy then?
I was there for 4 months.
For 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the demon child that made you leave Italy?
No, it wasn't actually.
Okay,
You
we can leave it at that. I just was curious, because I mean, if I went somewhere and there was a demon child in my bed, I'd probably leave.
yeah. No, I just missed grass and home. I was just homesick.
I get it. I lived in Louisiana for like 4 months, and I was like, I hate this. It's like it's not a bad place to live, but it's not home. So yeah, I get it. I get that.
That's why I left.
So you come back to the U.S. and what happens next?
Oh, let's see. That's when I was 21. Between there and Minnesota, I lived a lot of places, and here's a good one. And I lived in Illinois. I moved into this apartment that was across the hall from my friend's apartment. I thought that would be so cool, live by my friend. But apparently a woman had died in that apartment, and an older woman. And when we first moved in, strange things would happen. The sink would turn on full blast, and I'm like, that could be water pressure, just trying to explain everything away. And then doors, of course, would slam all the time. And then the stereo started turning itself on in the middle of the day. I would be at work. I only worked like, a half a mile away. But I get a phone call from the apartment manager going, can you turn your music down? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm at work. She's like, the music is on in your apartment so loud. Can you turn it down? I'm like, fine. So I go home and have to turn off the stereo and be like, can you stop? Yelling at the ghosts. But you would always hear at night, when the cold air return, when somebody walks by it, it makes like an absence of noise when someone walks by it. And I would hear that every night coming down the hall. And I'm like, oh, it's a freaking ghost, man. And I'd be laying in bed and then I'd feel it come in like right next to my face at night. And, it was kind of creeping me out a little bit. And so one night I was asleep and all of a sudden I woke up and I look up and this ghost is leaned over looking me in my face through my wall. Because that's the head of my bed right there. And she grabs my shoulders and tries to like yank me into the wall and hits my head on the headboard. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Leave me alone. And so, that happened. And then it would start that at night, like if I left anything in my sink, I had a wooden spoon. My sink, all of my dishes were done. The spoon had fallen out of the strainer into the sink. And in the middle of the night, it'd go thwack, 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 in the kitchen until I got up to go look to see what it was. And then it would like stop as soon as I got to the kitchen. And my boyfriend at the time said he would hear my voice when he was up and I was asleep. And he said, I came into the kitchen and said, what are you doing, sweetie? When he was getting something out of the refrigerator. He was like, oh, I'm just getting a drink. And then he turns around and I'm not there. And he comes down the hallway and I'm asleep. And he's like, I don't know what that was, but I thought it was you. So that would happen a lot. But yeah, she was not nice.
But he never saw anything, just heard you.
Until one night I was sleeping and he was sleeping next to me, and all of a sudden I felt a hand like going up my leg. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I woke him up and finally he woke up and I'm like, there's a hand going up my body. He's like, I don't see anything. But then he put his hand down and he felt the hand go over his hand as it was going up my body. And he's like, what was that? I'm like, it's that old lady. I saw her sitting at my table one night when I got up in the middle of the night. And she was just sitting at the table with her hand like this, just looking at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do to deserve this? And she's just like, you're evil. She's like, I'm not evil. I'm like, then why are you messing with me? She's like, I don't want to be dead. And I was like, well, I'm sorry. I can't do anything about that, but you can leave me alone. She did not leave me alone, by the way, until I moved.
I mean, if I was evil, I would probably tell people I wasn't evil too.
Well, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not evil. Let me show you my fork tongue.
Yeah. So wow. You know, when I first set this up, I thought this was going to be all about Bigfoot, but you've got a lot of really, really interesting, just paranormal stuff. This is awesome.
Right. I've got Bigfoot stories too.
Well, we'll get there. I'm enjoying your demon possession that apparently you have.
It makes you a stronger person.
Do you have like a priest on retainer?
Mm-mm. No, because as time has progressed, I've had more experiences. I have been pulled down into the underworld by entities before, and not like in a malicious way. I just got sucked down through my bed one night, not physically, obviously, but and I was down in this place underneath the ground, and it was like this bunch of cave systems with great big huge like 20-foot doors that are made of wood and iron, and there's all these entities walking around, and they all see me. They all are looking at me in my face as I'm walking around, and I'm just looking around, and they just look at me, and some of them are heading off that way, some are going that way, some going to the room ahead, and I'm just walking around going, where the heck am I? But yeah, so I have been down into the underworld a number of times. For whatever reason, I don't know. Nothing ever happens. I'm always walking when I go down there. I'm just walking and looking around at things. But since then, when I have been going to people's houses and getting rid of entities, I don't have to be mean and forceful and religious and be like, oh, I cast thee out, blah, blah, blah. No. I'm just like, hey, this is not your space. This is where these people live, and you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So you can either leave, or I can make you leave, and I can banish you. And when you banish them, they don't go back to the underworld. They go to like the in-between. It's like it's not here, it's not there. They're just like stuck out in kind of like a limbo until they find their way back. So they don't like that. So usually they're just like, all right, I'll go. Because they know that I can banish them. And so I guess my reputation precedes me at this point. And I usually don't have to be forceful. I'm just like, hey, you got to go. You can't stay here. And they just like, whatever. And they'll just leave.
So when you were in this underworld thing, like as you called it, did these entities or whatever they are, did they ever interact with you, or did they just like ignore you and like, meh, there's somebody else here?
Well, they saw me. They looked me in my face, but nobody ever like tried to approach me or anything. They're just like, yep, you're just, one more of us or of whatever that's down here. Because there was everything down there. It wasn't like just people. There was people, there were demons, there were aliens, there were all these dark entities, things that I had never seen before. And, me being me, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh, what is that? I don't know what that is. Who are you? Well, you're cool. I have questions. But yeah, most of them just look.
So do I.
Right. See? And see, that's how I am with everything, whether it be Bigfoot, Dogman, aliens, skinwalkers, anything and everything. I have questions. I don't run away. I don't want to run away from you. I want you to come closer. Let's have conversations. I want to talk. Teach me about you. Who are you? What are you? What do you do? What is your purpose here? All the things. That's how I am.
So you brought it up. Have you ever had UFO or alien encounters?
Absolutely. Back in my house in Minnesota, we used to, when my husband was alive, we would sit out in the garage and smoke because I used to smoke. And we called it our nature channel. So we'd open the garage door, we'd sit on the couch in the garage and just watch the nature channel. And after, I don't know, a couple years that we'd been sitting out there, one night, this big green orb, I want to say probably as big as like a great big beach ball at the beach, big green orb across the street, up above the telephone poles, just sitting there. And I'm like, that's weird. And I'm like, do you see that? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So we're sitting there watching it, and then it shoots into the ground. And I'm like, huh. okay. So the next day we go out there to the field to see if we could see where it went into the ground, and there was nothing there. So that was the beginning of it. After that, we would go outside at night, and there would be ships up in the sky, not, not far. I would say not far, like 350, 500 feet up in the air, just hanging out there, like 2 or 3 of them. Then I started having dreams that I would look out across the street where we had seen that green orb, and I would blink and look again, and all of a sudden there would be like a building there. And I would look away and look back, and then there was 5. And like they were building a community right across the street from my house. I'm like, okay, that's, those are interesting dreams, whatever. But then as my husband and I spent more time outside, we would have more and more interactions. And one day the sun was setting, and we were going like towards the sunset, and we turned out on the road, and there is a spacecraft above the road, like 10 feet above the road. And it was only as wide as both lanes. It was a 2-lane road. It was only as wide as 2 lanes. You can see windows. You can see people in it. You couldn't make out their faces because it was backlit, but you could see people in it. And it was just hovering, and as we're driving, it's keeping it same distance away from us. And I'm like, do you see that? He's like, yeah, I see that. He's like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, get it. And as soon as I said that, it shot off really fast. And the next road that came up, it went down that road, and it was gone. And I was like, no, I have questions. But yeah, we saw that in the daylight.
Holy cow. What did this craft look like?
It was silver, and think of like the old drawings of the spaceships with the little 3 legs on it. The legs weren't down, but that shape, that discus shape with where the lights are, and then around that there was windows all the way around. And you can see through the windows, and you can see people, entities standing there, and there was like probably 3 or 5 somewhere in there. But yeah, standing there looking at us, looking at them.
And they were probably yelling, "Get it."
No, they're like, she said, get it, we better go.
Did you have any missing time during any of this?
I mean, it's hard to say. I don't think so, because it was still sunset. And well, sunsets in Minnesota last for like an hour. It's not like, bam, the sun is down like it is on the East Coast. But no, I don't think we had any missing time then.
You say then, does that mean that you've had missing time at another point?
I don't know that I have, because if I have, it wasn't missing to me. So I didn't miss it, but...
Do you have a strange lump behind your ear?
Right? No, I had a thing that showed up on an x-ray once. I couldn't say that it wasn't just something from a surgery, but I had an x-ray, and it was in my chest, and I'd had my gallbladder taken out, so it wasn't far from that area. So did something happen, and they left something in there? Maybe, I thought. But I went and got a chest x-ray, and when I was looking at it, when the technician was done, I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, is that a marker? He's like, no. And I'm like, what is it? He's like, I don't know, and I'm not allowed to say anything else. And I'm like, okay. And then so I told my doctor to order the x-rays, but by the time the x-rays got to my doctor, that had been removed off of my x-ray. And I was like, I wonder how many people they do that to. But I've had x-rays since then, and it's no longer there. So whatever it was is gone.
Huh. Well, they were like, they contacted the aliens, and they're like, hey, we accidentally showed her this. You need to come and get it.
Well, sometimes I think that maybe they have like technology that just disappears, like it disintegrates after a certain amount of time.
Yeah, that could be too.
That's a theory.
I mean, anything's on the table at this point.
Right? My whole life is like craziness.
I wasn't going to say it, but yeah. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? It's an adventure. And I can never say that my life is boring, because it's always an adventure.
Right. Wow. So we've time is flying because we've been doing this for almost 40 minutes so far. Actually, we have done this for 40 minutes, and we have not talked about Bigfoot yet.
Okay. Let's see. You want my first experience or my best experience?
Yes.
All right. I have seen Bigfoot with my own eyes probably 5 to 7 times, which is, I know a lot. For some people, go their whole lives researching and never see Bigfoot. I've seen them in the daytime, in the nighttime, on infrared with my own 2 eyes. So yeah, my first experience is one of the more well-known ones, is the footage that we got on top of a mountain in Tennessee. And we were out there for an event in Georgia with Matthew Delph of Micro and some other people. But we went out with Matthew to one of his research areas that he was showing people during the day. And we sent the coordinates back to Jen, and because she wasn't feeling very well, so we wouldn't let her go on the hike. But we decided it was worth investigating at night, and you can't take, other people out there because for insurance reasons, people can fall off a mountain. So we went up there at night, and I had been using Jenna's FLIR camera, Jenna, one of my teammates, and it was my first time using it, and I turned it on, and I got out because Jen said, there's one right over there. It's right over there, when she was looking on the remote viewing. This could be a whole much longer story, but for time purposes. She was remote viewing, and she said, yes, there's one right over there. So I got out with the FLIR, and I looked, and sure enough, there he was, and he had his arms up, and he had hair hanging down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because we had it on black hot. So skin is black, but hair is white on black hot. Anything that's warm is black. So I'm sitting there looking at it, and it's white, all white, and he's working with something in his hands, and it looks like he has an animal that, he has skinned or something like that. He's working with his hands. He knew that we were there. We are not quiet girls. We do not mask our scents. We are not quiet. We go out there with our perfume, our hair products, everything. They don't care. For the record, they don't care. They know you're there before you know that they are there. So they don't care. But yeah, so I finally had Jenna help me record, and we got 13 minutes of FLIR footage on top of that mountain. He knew that we were there. We knew he was there. We never thought to get any closer, but he didn't run away. He just let us record him. And finally, we turned away. We're like, okay, that's enough. 13 minutes is enough. So we turned it off and went to and looked over there, and we're doing something else, turned back, and he was gone. But he let us record him that whole entire time. So that was my very first night investigation ever looking for Bigfoot. And we got that 13 minutes of footage.
Well, I mean, of course, from what we've already heard,
right?
if you went to look for the Loch Ness Monster, you're probably going to find him the very first time.
Well, I did get my scuba certification so I could look and see what's in the ocean.
There you go. Sounds like searching for Loch Ness.
Hey, I'm down for all the adventure. Eventually everybody's going to be like, yep, Bigfoot's real. Yep. And then what? What are all these Bigfoot researchers going to do? Me? I'm going into the ocean. I'm going to go see what else is down there.
Right. You can't just stop. Because
right.
That's how I got into the paranormal. Once I realized that ghosts are real, it's like, okay, so I was always told this isn't real. So what else is real?
Right.
And that's what got me going into all the cryptids and stuff. And yeah.
And at this point, how can you say that anything is not real? Anything that has a legend, how can you say that it's not real? Because somebody at some point saw something. And that's how these stories start. I saw this thing, and now it's a huge thing. So I have a very open mind as to everything. I am willing to be convinced by anything that I see and interact with. So,
yeah, I think if you're in this field, I can't say that I'm in this field. I podcast, but if you don't have an open mind, then you're not being honest. You're not, because even if you only believe in ghost, or you only believe in Bigfoot, whatever, you're looked at as fringe anyway. So why would you doubt what anybody else is saying?
Oh, a lot of it is because they don't want to be not taken seriously by the scientific community, which why do you care? I mean, really, why do you care? If the proof is out there and people can have proof, then who cares who believes you? It's your own experiences. I mean, I guess there's so many people that are like, I want to be the one, to discover Bigfoot. We've all discovered Bigfoot already. We're past that. Can't we just all work together and be like, hey, how about instead of trying to catch one, kill one, whatever, we just try to have conversations and see where that leads us. I think that a lot of the reason that people don't get the interactions they're looking for is because they're aggressive. And they're being aggressive. They're banging on trees. They're playing recordings of Bigfoot that they don't know what those Bigfoot are saying to each other. Maybe they're like having a call to arms, and you're playing this, blasting this out. What do you think is going to happen? You think you're going to have a positive interaction? Probably not. So we don't do that stuff. We don't come at it aggressively. We don't carry guns. We're not trying to scare it or catch it. We just want to have a face-to-face conversation.
Right. And my fear is if I play all those sounds that it might be a mating call.
I've heard that too. You don't want to be Bigfoot's love slave?
Not again.
That's a plug. That's also a plug for the song that the She-Squatchers released called Bigfoot Rock and War. And Jenna says, I don't want to be Bigfoot's love slave.
I did listen to that. I was looking for that video that you guys were telling me about, and I'm having trouble finding it. So,
of the FLIR footage?
Yeah. Maybe afterwards you can send me the link to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can send you. We also had somebody come in and stabilize it because I was obviously new at the FLIR, and I'm looking up at the trees and then back down, trying to make sure that I'm seeing what I'm seeing. And so some of it is back and forth, and you'll see Jen cut off part of it because she walked in front of the camera and she didn't like how she looked with white hair and black skin. And she's like, I look scary. I don't want that out there.
I mean, we have proof of Bigfoot, but daggone it, I need to look good.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right, Tammy. Well, I know that we're coming up on an hour already. I know that you have probably a ton more, but
another time.
My audience usually loses steam at about an hour. So,
all right,
perhaps maybe down the road, maybe you can come back and tell some more of your demonic life.
Hopefully, I'll go have new adventures and I'll have even better and scarier stories to tell.
Absolutely. So before you leave, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Well, you can find the She-Squatchers at she-squatchers.com, on Facebook, on TikTok, I think now too, Instagram. We're on all the grams. I am also on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, all the things. It's Tammy Treichel, or it's Tammy Treichel Official. If you just put in my name, you'll find me across many platforms. And, my IMDb is out there. I'm in a whole bunch of documentaries searching for Sasquatch and paranormal documentaries. So you can look on there too.
Absolutely. And I'll get all those links from you and make sure they're put in the description. So once again, Tammy,
sweet.
Thank you for coming on Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. And hopefully we can have you back at some point.
For sure. Bye, everybody.
Have a good night.
You too.
Shadow in the pines, lurking in the dusky air. Bigfoot stomps through the woods like he don't care. Lights in the sky flash green then blue. Aliens descending with a secret or two. Whispers in the breeze, cold fingers down your spine. Ghosts in the graveyard, twisting through time. Eyes wide open in the dead of night. The myths and monsters giving one hell of a fright. Oh, Myths, Monsters, and Mullets podcast, spinning wild tales of a future and a past. Hosted by John Methencamp's fiery soul. He takes us where the wild unknown flows. Oh, as the coyotes howl. A UFO zipping just above the trees, grabbing hold of wonder like a southern summer breeze. Some call it crazy, others call it a lie, but listen real close as the truth passes by. The lines are blurry, the story's bold. John Methencamp spins them into southern gold. Apparitions dancing in the smoky haze, legends of the deep south told in hollers and bays. Bigfoot runs free, chasing shadow dreams. Aliens keep secrets like moonlight beams. Down by the bayou, you hear a raspy growl. Swamp gas glowing as the coyotes howl. A UFO zipping just above the trees,